I'm Darwin, 32, a software engineer in Seattle who built my life from scratch. Despite my mom's early death, I maintained a relationship with my emotionally distant father, who remarried and created his real family without me. Still, I supported him financially, sending $2,500 monthly to help with expenses. Then I discovered something unforgivable. They took a luxury Hawaiian vacation using my money and deliberately excluded me. My dad's words still echo. They didn't want you there. Before I tell you how I made him regret those words, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe to see how I finally stood up for myself. My childhood in Portland wasn't easy. The earliest memories I have are tinged with a sense of incompleteness. My mother Elaine was the warm center of our small family, balancing out my father Richard's perpetual emotional distance. She worked as a kindergarten teacher, spreading kindness to everyone she met, while my father managed construction projects with the same detached efficiency he approached fatherhood. When I was 8, my world collapsed. Mom's cancer diagnosis came suddenly, and within 6 months, she was gone. I remember standing at her funeral, my small hand engulfed in my father's large one, feeling his grip but none of his warmth. That night, he awkwardly patted my shoulder and said, "We'll figure it out, son." But he never really tried to. For 2 years, we existed in separate orbits within the same house. I learned to cook simple meals, do my own laundry, and console myself after nightmares. Dad worked longer hours coming home just to sleep and shower. Our conversations became transactional, about school supplies needed or schedule changes. The emotional chasm between us grew wider with each passing day. Then Melissa entered our lives. Dad met her at a company event. She worked in the administrative office of his construction firm. Within months, they were engaged. And by the time I turned 10, she moved into our house with her children, Evan, who was 11, and Sophia, who was 7. "You'll have siblings now," my father announced, as if this would magically heal everything. A real family again. Those words, real family, would echo throughout my childhood, taking on increasingly painful meanings as years passed. The early days of our blended family were awkward but bearable. Melissa wasn't unkind, just indifferent. She made efforts with family dinners and movie nights, but it became clear that her children were her priority. Dad seemed transformed in their presence, laughing at Evan's jokes, helping Sophia with her arts and crafts, attending their school events without complaint. I still remember the first time I truly felt like an outsider. It was Evan's 11th birthday 3 months after they moved in. Dad took the day off work to set up an elaborate backyard party with a rented bounce house and catered food. Just 6 months earlier, on my 10th birthday, I'd received a hurried happy birthday and a $20 bill before he left for work. As middle school progressed, the pattern solidified. Dad attended every one of Evan's baseball games, cheering loudly from the stands, but missed my science fair where I won first place. He helped Sophia practice for dance recitals, but was too tired to look at my coding projects. What hurt most wasn't just his absence from my life, but witnessing his active presence in theirs. Still, I desperately wanted his approval. I threw myself into academics, thinking achievement might finally turn his head. I skipped a grade in math, joined the computer club, won academic competitions. Each success was met with the same response. "That's good," Darwin, followed by a quick return to whatever Evan or Sophia were doing. Coding became my sanctuary. In the digital world, effort led directly to results. Clean code worked, buggy code didn't. It was black and white, predictable fare, everything my family life wasn't. I spent hours in the school computer lab, then later on, a secondhand desktop I saved up for by mowing lawns and tutoring younger kids. By 16, I was already taking community college classes in computer science. My high school counselor helped me apply for scholarships, seeing the potential my own father missed. When the acceptance letter from the University of Washington arrived with a full academic scholarship, I waited until dinner to share the news. I got into UW. "Full ride," I said, sliding the letter across the table. Dad glanced at it. "University of Washington. That's in Seattle, right?" "Yes. One of the best computer science programs in the country." Seattle's expensive. You'll need money for living expenses." No congratulations, no pride, just a practical assessment of financial needs. Meanwhile, Evan's C+ on a history test was displayed on the refrigerator like a masterpiece. I left for college 3 months later, driving myself in my old Honda Civic. Dad was helping Evan prepare for a baseball tournament that weekend, so they couldn't see me off. "You'll be fine," he said over the phone. "You've always been independent." University life was transformative. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who valued what I could do. My professors recognized my talent. Peers sought my help with projects, and during sophomore year, I landed an internship at a growing tech company that paid actual money. I called home to share the news. "That's nice," Dad said. "Hey, Evan got scouted by a minor league team. We're having a big celebration this weekend." I wasn't invited. When I graduated with honors in computer science, my roommate's parents took pictures of us together and treated us both to dinner. My family had declined to attend. Evan had a baseball tournament that weekend. By then, I expected nothing more. My first job after graduation was at a promising startup developing business software solutions. The salary was surprisingly good, and within 6 months, I received my first bonus for completing a major project ahead of schedule. For the first time in my life, I had significant money in my bank account. I bought new clothes, upgraded my apartment furnishings, and even started investing a portion of my income. Then came the first call from Dad. "Darwin, how's it going, Seattle? Treating you well?" The casual tone, as if we regularly chatted, put me on alert. "I'm good, Dad. Work is going well." "Great, great. Listen, we've hit a bit of a rough patch. Melissa's car broke down, needs a new transmission. About $2,000. I hate to ask, but with your new job and all." I transferred the money that night. Part of me knew it was a test. Would the distant son help the family that never fully included him? Another part desperately hoped this financial assistance might finally earn me the place I'd never had. "Thanks, Darwin. You really came through for us," Dad said afterward. He sounded genuinely appreciative, and for a moment, I felt like I mattered. I didn't hear from him again for 3 months. By 26, my career had gained significant momentum. The startup I joined was acquired by a larger company, resulting in a generous stock payout and a promotion to senior developer. My annual income had more than doubled from my starting salary. I moved to a better apartment in a trendy Seattle neighborhood, started taking actual vacations, and felt secure in my financial future. Dad's calls became more regular, and so did his emergencies. First, it was the roof that suddenly needed repairs. Then Sophia's braces that insurance wouldn't fully cover. Then property taxes they'd fallen behind on. Each call followed the same script, casual, catching up the mention of family activities I wasn't part of then, the financial crisis that only I could solve. "You're doing so well for yourself," became his refrain, and family helps family. At first, these were one-off requests, but after helping with 3 consecutive emergencies within 2 months, I suggested a different approach. "Dad, instead of these surprise expenses, why don't I just send you some money monthly? Would $500 help?" His enthusiasm was immediate. "That would be incredible, Darwin. You have no idea how much that would help us." So began the official support payments. $500 transferred on the 1st of every month. Each time I received a thank you text, sometimes with a family photo attached, outings to restaurants, sporting events, or local attractions that I was never invited to join. When my company offered me a position at their headquarters with a substantial salary increase, the monthly amount grew too. "I've got a promotion," I told Dad during one of our brief calls. "Moving to a new team with more responsibility." "That's great, son. More money too, I bet." The transition from congratulations to financial implications took less than 10 seconds. Yes, a significant increase actually. "Well, with your new position, maybe you could help us out a little more each month. Evan's looking at colleges and those application fees add up." The 500 became 1,000 without much discussion. I told myself it was fine. I could afford it. And wasn't this what successful children did for their parents? Besides, perhaps this financial bridge would eventually lead to a real relationship. Around this time, I met Jennifer through mutual friends at a technology conference. She was a UX designer with a quick wit and zero tolerance for pretense. On our third date, She asked about my family. We're not close, I said. The practiced minimal response. What does that mean exactly? She wasn't letting me off the hook. So, I told her everything. The emotional abandonment after Mom died, the new family that never included me, the ongoing financial support I provided, despite the distance. Jennifer's forehead creased. Darwin, that sounds like they're using you. It's complicated, I defended. They're still my family. Are they, though? Family is more than DNA. It's showing up, caring, being involved in each other's lives. Her words unsettled me, but I wasn't ready to examine what they meant. The holiday season arrived, and I invited Jennifer to join me for Christmas dinner at my father's house. The first time I'd brought anyone home. The 4-hour drive to Portland was filled with my anxious briefing about family dynamics and Jennifer's reassurances. The actual dinner was worse than I'd anticipated. Dad greeted me with a distracted handshake, while Melissa offered a perfunctory hug. Evan, now a college sophomore on a partial baseball scholarship, barely looked up from his phone. Only Sophia, finishing her senior year of high school, made any effort to engage with us. So Jennifer Darwin tells us, "You're in design," my father asked during the awkward dinner. User experience design, yes. I help make software more intuitive for people to use. Sounds creative. He turned to Evan. Tell Darwin and his girlfriend about your batting average this season. Jennifer squeezed my hand under the table as Evan launched into a detailed account of his baseball statistics. Later, when Sophia mentioned her college applications, the conversation shifted dramatically. She's been accepted to 3 schools already, Melissa beamed. We're just waiting to hear from her top choice. That's great, I said. Congratulations, Sophia. The only problem is the tuition, my father interjected, looking meaningfully in my direction. Even with scholarships, we're looking at significant expenses. The request wasn't subtle. By the time dessert was served, I understood what this dinner was really about. As we left, Dad pulled me aside. With your recent success, I was hoping you might consider increasing your monthly help. College expenses for both kids. Now you know. Maybe $2,500 a month would be more appropriate. I agreed without argument. The amount made me wince internally, but my salary could handle it. Maybe this larger contribution would finally make me matter to them. On the drive back to Seattle, Jennifer was uncharacteristically quiet. That was illuminating, she finally said about an hour into the journey. I warned you they were difficult. Darwin, they didn't ask a single question about your life. Not one. Your father called you by the wrong company name twice. They don't know you at all, but they sure know your bank account. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. It's just how they are. It's not okay, she insisted. And I'm worried you can't see how abnormal this island. The monthly transfers increased to $2,500. With each payment, I told myself I was being the bigger person, that I was helping family, that someday this investment would pay emotional dividends. Jennifer's concern grew, but she recognized my stubborn streak and stopped pushing directly. My career continued its upward trajectory. I was promoted to team lead, then engineering manager, with corresponding increases in compensation. I bought my first house, a modern 3-bedroom, in a nice Seattle neighborhood, with a view of the Cascade Mountains. I invited my family for a housewarming party, planning to show them my success, perhaps finally earning the recognition I still craved. They canceled 3 days before the event. Evan had a baseball game. He was now playing in a semi-professional league. The pattern was so familiar I should have predicted it. What I couldn't ignore, though, were the social media posts. Melissa's new SUV, Evan's spring break trip to Cancun, Sophia's designer handbag collection, their renovated kitchen with high-end appliances. All while my father continued to describe their financial situation as tight and struggling during his monthly calls preceding my transfers. Jennifer moved in with me 6 months after I bought the house. Her presence made it feel like a real home, warm, accepting, full of laughter. She encouraged me to set boundaries with my family, but I wasn't ready. The monthly payments continued alongside the growing evidence that my money wasn't funding necessities, but luxuries. I attended Evan's graduation from college, sitting alone in the crowded auditorium, while my father and Melissa sat with his girlfriend's family in reserved seating. I sent an expensive gift when Sophia made the dean's list, receiving a brief text of thanks. I funded the family's Thanksgiving dinner but was told there wasn't really room at the table for Jennifer and me because some of Melissa's relatives were visiting. Each slight accumulated building, a case I refused to examine. Each monthly transfer drained not just my bank account, but something deeper inside me. My sense of worth, my hope for reciprocity, my belief that blood would eventually count for something. Jennifer watched with growing frustration. "You deserve better than this," became her refrain. "They're my family" remained my defense, increasingly hollow, even to my own ears. "No, Darwin. We're your family. Me, your friends, the people who actually care about you. They're just people you're financially supporting who happen to share some DNA." I wasn't ready to hear it. Not yet. But the foundation was cracking beneath my feet. It happened on a Wednesday evening. I'd just finished a grueling day resolving a critical production issue, and I was scrolling through social media, mindlessly decompressing before dinner. Jennifer was working late on a deadline project, so I had the house to myself. My thumb stopped mid-scroll. There on my screen was a photo of my father, arm around Melissa, standing on a pristine beach with palm trees swaying in the background. The location tag read Grand Wailea Resort, Maui. The caption, "Finally made it to paradise. Day 1 of our family vacation." I stared at the image, confusion turning to disbelief. I hadn't heard anything about a Hawaii trip. The timestamp showed it was posted 3 hours ago. I kept scrolling through my feed. More photos appeared. Evan posing with his girlfriend Amber by an infinity pool. Sophia in a flowery dress at what looked like an expensive luau. My father raising a colorful tropical drink in a toast. Melissa kissing his cheek with the sunset, creating a perfect backdrop. Celebrating 20 years together, in style family vacation, blessed, read another caption on Melissa's profile. My hands trembled slightly as I opened my banking app. Sure enough, the monthly $2,500 transfer had gone through to my father's account just 8 days earlier. I checked previous transactions and noticed an additional withdrawal from his account to Travel Galaxy for just over $12,000 shortly after my transfer. The Grand Wailea Resort, the exact chain I had mentioned to my father last year when talking about places I hope to visit someday. Seems excessive for a hotel, he had commented then. I texted Sophia, choosing my words carefully. "Hey, those Hawaii pics look amazing. When did you guys plan this trip?" Her response came quickly. "Been in the works for months. Mom and Dad's anniversary celebration. The whole family is here. Even Evan's girlfriend and Sophia's new boyfriend flew in yesterday. Dad splurged for the Ocean View Suites." The whole family. Except me. I set my phone down and walked to the window, staring out at the Seattle skyline as the implications sank in. This wasn't an oversight. You don't forget to mention a major family vacation to someone who's sending you $2,500 monthly. This was deliberate exclusion. My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. "You should see this place. It's incredible. Dad got us all first-class tickets too." First-class tickets to Hawaii. Ocean View Suites at one of the most expensive resorts on Maui. Anniversary celebration with the whole family. Funded by my money. I didn't respond to Sophia. Instead, I poured myself a rare midweek whiskey and tried to process what this meant. The family vacation wasn't just about a trip. It was definitive proof of something I'd been denying for years. I wasn't considered part of the family. I was the ATM that funded their real family experiences. Jennifer found me still sitting in the dark when she got home around 10. "Darwin, everything okay?" She flipped on the light and saw my expression. "What happened?" Wordlessly, I handed her my phone with the vacation photos displayed. She scrolled through them, her face transitioning from confusion to understanding to anger. "Those absolute parasites," she finally said. "Using your money to fund a luxury vacation they didn't even invite you to." 20 years together, I said flatly. "That's what they're celebrating, their family unit, which clearly doesn't include me." Jennifer sat beside me, taking my hand. "I'm so sorry, Darwin. What are you going to do?" "I need to talk to him." I tried calling my father immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a simple message. "Dad saw the Hawaii pictures. Call me when you can." He didn't call back that night, or the next day, or the day after that. I watched more photos populate my social feeds. Snorkeling adventures, helicopter tours, private dining experiences on the beach. Each image twisted the knife deeper, not because I wanted to be in Hawaii, but because the exclusion was so complete, so intentional, while my financial support was happily accepted and immediately spent. Finally, on the third day, my phone rang with my father's number. "Darwin, how's it going?" His voice was casual, as if nothing was amiss. "You're in Hawaii." I stated it flatly. "Oh, you saw the pictures. Yeah, incredible place. Melissa always wanted to come here for our anniversary. Why didn't you mention it to me?" A pause. "Didn't think you'd be interested, honestly. You're always so busy with work." "You didn't think I'd be interested in a family vacation that I essentially paid for?" Another longer pause. "Now that's not fair. This trip was planned with our savings." "Dad, you withdrew $12,000 right after my monthly transfer. The timing isn't coincidental." "Look, Darwin, I don't appreciate you monitoring how we spend money. Once you give it to us, it's ours to use." The calm deflection ignited something in me. "That's not the point, and you know it. Why wasn't I included, or even told about it?" The silence stretched between us. When he finally spoke, his voice had an edge I rarely heard. "You want the truth. They didn't want you there. You're not really part of the family anyway. You're always awkward at gatherings, you make everyone uncomfortable with your success talk, and frankly, it would have ruined Melissa's perfect vacation vision." The words landed like physical blows. I couldn't speak. "Darwin, you there," he continued, without waiting for my response. "Anyway, while I have you, the house needs some significant repairs when we get back. The foundation has some issues, and we got a quote for $30,000. I was thinking maybe you could increase the monthly amount temporarily to help cover—" "You just told me I'm not part of the family." I interrupted, my voice strangled. "Don't be so sensitive. You know what I meant. You're my son, but you've always been different. Look about that increase." "I need to go," I said, and hung up. I sat motionless, his words replaying in my head. "They didn't want you there. You're not really part of the family anyway." After decades of trying to earn a place of financial support, of showing up despite being repeatedly excluded, I finally had the unvarnished truth. And in that moment something broke, and something else hardened inside me. I barely slept that night. Jennifer found me at 3 a.m, sitting in our home office, staring at financial records, years of transfers, tens of thousands of dollars sent to support people who explicitly didn't consider me family. "You need to talk to someone professional about this," Jennifer said gently the next morning. She helped me find a therapist who could see me that same day for an emergency session. Dr. Lynette Matthews, a specialist in family trauma, listened intently as I poured out the whole story, from my mother's death through the latest Hawaiian vacation revelation. "What you're describing," she said carefully, "when I finished, is a pattern of emotional abuse combined with financial exploitation. Your father and his family have systematically taken advantage of your desire for connection and belonging." "But they're my family," I said reflexively. "Darwin family is defined by how people treat each other, not by blood or legal ties. The people in your life who truly care about you, like Jennifer, they're behaving like family. These people are behaving like users." She helped me see the patterns more clearly, how my father only contacted me when money was needed, how achievements in my life were minimized, while trivial events in my step-siblings' lives were celebrated, how I was consistently excluded from family activities, while my financial support was treated as an obligation. "What do I do now?" I asked toward the end of our session. "That's entirely your decision," she replied. "But I would encourage you to consider what maintaining this relationship, in its current form, is costing you, not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically." I spent the next 2 days in deep reflection, talking with Jennifer and processing Dr. Matthews' insights. My father texted once asking about the foundation repair money with no acknowledgement of our previous conversation. That was the final confirmation I needed. "I need to confront him in person," I told Jennifer. "I need to see his face when I tell him I'm done." "Do you want me to come with you?" she offered. "No. This is something I need to do alone." The following Saturday, I drove the 4 hours to Portland without announcing my visit. I knew they'd be back from Hawaii. Their family vacation had been extensively documented as a 10-day trip. When I pulled into the driveway of my father's 2-story suburban home, a house my money had helped maintain and improve over the years, I noticed both my father's and Melissa's cars present along with Evan's recognizable sports car. Good. A full house would save me from having this conversation multiple times. I rang the doorbell, heart pounding in my chest. Sophia answered, her expression shifting from surprise to unease when she saw me. "Darwin, we weren't expecting you." "Clearly," I replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Is everyone home?" Yeah. We're all in the living room. Dad's showing the Hawaii videos on the big screen." "Perfect timing." I walked into the living room where my father, Melissa, Evan, and his girlfriend Amber were lounging on the sectional sofa watching footage of their helicopter tour over Maui's volcanic landscapes. My entrance caused immediate silence. "Darwin," my father recovered first, hurriedly pausing the video. "This is unexpected. We were just watching videos from the family vacation I wasn't invited to." "Yes, I can see that." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. My eyes took in new details. Melissa's obviously new diamond bracelet, my father's high-end smartwatch, the latest gaming console connected to their new giant television. "If you'd called ahead," Melissa started, her tone defensive, "we could have prepared for a proper visit." "I'm not here for a proper visit," I said, remaining standing as they all Saturday. "I'm here to understand exactly what I am to this family." My father shifted uncomfortably. "Darwin, if this is about what I said on the phone, you're blowing it out of proportion. I was tired dealing with vacation stress." "Answer the question, Dad. What am I to this family? Because from where I'm standing, I look like nothing more than a convenient source of income." "That's not fair," Melissa interjected. "Richard loves you. You're his son." And yet I wasn't included in the whole family vacation. I wasn't even told about it. While the money I sent, $2,500 that same week, helped pay for first-class tickets and ocean view suites. "We don't need to discuss financial matters in front of everyone," my father said stiffly. "Why not? Isn't that what family does? Share important things with each other? Or is it only me who's expected to share, specifically, my money?" Evan snorted. "Here we go with the money talk again. You love reminding everyone how successful you are." I turned to him. "I don't recall mentioning my success. I mentioned the financial support I've provided to this household for years. Support that paid for part of your college, your car, and apparently your girlfriend's ticket to Hawaii." Amber had the grace to look embarrassed. "No one forced you to help us," my father said, his voice hardening. "That was your choice. A choice based on the belief that I was actually part of this family. A belief you shattered when you said, and I quote, 'They didn't want you there. You're not really part of the family anyway.'" Melissa gasped. "Richard, you didn't say that to him." My father's expression confirmed I was quoting him accurately. "Look, he tried. You're making this into something bigger than an island. We're getting off track. Actually, I'm glad you're here, because we need to discuss the foundation repairs." And there it was, the immediate pivot to money. No apology, no acknowledgement, just the next financial request. "I send you $2,500 a month," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "And this is how you treat me. Exclude me from family events, dismiss me when I express hurt, and immediately ask for more money." "You're being too sensitive," Evan interjected. "It's just a vacation." I looked at each of their faces. My father's irritated impatience, Melissa's calculated concern, Evan's dismissive smirk, Sophia's uncomfortable guilt. In that moment, with crystal clarity, I saw the true nature of our relationship. I wasn't a son or a brother or even a distant relative. I was a resource to be tapped, an ATM with feelings they occasionally had to manage. "I'm done," I said quietly. "Done being dramatic." "Good," my father said. "Now about that foundation work." "No. I'm done sending money. I'm done trying to buy my way into a family that doesn't want me. I'm done being used." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Alarm replaced annoyance on my father's face. Darwin, you're overreacting. Take some time to think about this. I have thought about it, for years actually. I just didn't want to see what was right in front of me. But I see it now crystal clear. So what, you're just going to abandon your family when we need you? Melissa demanded. That's the thing, Melissa. You're not my family. You never were. Family doesn't treat each other the way you've all treated me. With those words, I turned and walked toward the door. My father rushed after me, catching my arm. Darwin, wait. You can't just cut us off. We depend on that money. I looked at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. Not angry now, but afraid. Not concerned about losing me, but terrified of losing my financial support. You should have thought of that before you excluded me from the whole family vacation that my money paid for. Before you told me I wasn't really part of the family anyway. I gently removed his hand and continued walking. This isn't over, he called after me. You have responsibilities to this family. I paused at the door, turning back one last time. No, Dad, I don't. And that's the most freeing realization I've had in 20 years. I walked out, got into my car, and drove away from the house I'd helped pay for, but never belonged in. For the first time in my adult life, I felt unburdened, as if I'd set down a crushing weight I hadn't fully acknowledged was there. The first signs of fallout came before I even reached Seattle. My phone exploded with notifications, calls from my father, texts from Melissa, even messages from Evan and Sophia. I silenced it all, focusing on the road ahead, both literally and figuratively. When I finally checked the messages that evening with Jennifer by my side for support, the content was predictably manipulative. From Dad, you're making a huge mistake. Call me immediately so we can fix this misunderstanding. From Melissa, your father is devastated by your behavior. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. From Evan, way to be a selfish jerk. Dad and Mom are worried about losing the house now because of you. From Sophia, the only slightly less accusatory message, Darwin, everyone's really upset. Can we talk about this before you do something drastic? Notice how none of them apologized or acknowledged what they did, Jennifer observed. The next morning, I contacted my bank and formally stopped all recurring transfers to my father's account. I met with my financial advisor to review my accounts and ensure there were no ways for my father to access any of my funds. Not that he should have had access, but I wanted to be certain. You're doing the right thing. Jennifer reassured me that night as we lay in bed, her head on my shoulder. It's going to be hard, but you deserve better than being someone's ATM. I know, I said, feeling simultaneously lighter and heavier. I wish he'd been a real father to me at some point. The calls and messages continued for days, evolving from demands to pleas to threats. I read them all but responded to none. I was determined to maintain the boundary I'd finally established. A week after my confrontation, my father showed up at my workplace. I was in a meeting when the receptionist called to inform me someone was causing a disturbance in the lobby, refusing to leave until he saw me. By the time I got downstairs, security was already dealing with the situation. My father, red-faced and disheveled, was gesturing wildly. There he is, he shouted when he saw me. Tell them who I am. Tell them I'm your father. The scene was humiliating. Colleagues watching, security guards flanking my agitated father, the receptionist, wide-eyed with discomfort. Sir, please lower your voice, one guard was saying. Dad, I said quietly, approaching, but keeping my distance. This isn't appropriate. I'm at work. You won't answer my calls. What choice did I give you? We're about to lose the house because of your tantrum. I'm not having this conversation here, I said firmly. Please leave before security has to escort you out. You ungrateful. He stepped toward me aggressively, and the security guards immediately moved between us. After everything I've done for you. Sir, that's enough, the head of security said firmly. You need to leave now, or we'll call the police. Fine, call them. Let everyone see what kind of son abandons his family when they need him. They did call the police. My father was escorted from the building, shouting about ingratitude and family responsibility the entire time. I stood frozen in the lobby, mortified and shaken, until my team lead gently suggested I take the rest of the day off. That evening, Melissa left a voicemail, her voice dripping with calculated emotion. "I hope you're satisfied with what you've done to your father. He's absolutely broken. Is this really the kind of son you want to be? Someone who abandons his family over a simple misunderstanding. We're about to lose everything because you're being stubborn." Jennifer, who was listening with me, scoffed. "A simple misunderstanding. They deliberately excluded you from a family vacation funded by your money, and your father literally told you that you weren't part of the family." The pressure campaign intensified. Sophia sent a carefully crafted message ostensibly apologizing, "I'm sorry if you felt excluded," while simultaneously guilting me about their financial situation. Evan alternated between threatening messages and attempts to shame me publicly on social media, tagging mutual acquaintances in posts about entitled tech bros abandoning their struggling families. Then came the extended family assault. Distant relatives I barely knew reached out on social media or via email expressing their concern and disappointment in my behavior. Melissa's brother called, presenting himself as a neutral mediator, while subtly pressuring me to resume financial support. "Dad's had to put the house on the market," he informed me. "They'll lose decades of equity if they have to sell quickly." "Is that really what you want?" "What I want," I replied evenly, "is to be treated with basic respect and consideration by people who claim to be my family. Look, we all say things we don't mean when we're stressed." "Did my father tell you what he said to me?" I interrupted. "Well, no, but he told me I wasn't really part of the family, that they didn't want me on their vacation, a vacation partially funded by my money." This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment comment. It was the truth he's never had the courage to say before. The call ended uncomfortably, but the campaign continued. My father left multiple voicemails daily, ranging from tearful apologies that never specifically acknowledged what he was apologizing for to angry accusations about my mental instability and abandonment issues. Through it all, I maintained my silence and my boundary. Each attempt to manipulate me only strengthened my resolve. As Thanksgiving approached, the first holiday season since the break, the emotional pressure intensified. Melissa sent photos of their partially packed house, with captions about our last holiday in the family home, thanks to Darwin's decision. Sophia called crying about having to withdraw from college due to financial hardship. I verified with her university that her scholarship was intact and her tuition for the year already paid. The manipulation was becoming more desperate and more transparent. Jennifer's parents, upon hearing about my family situation, extended a warm Thanksgiving invitation. Spending the holiday with them, seeing how a healthy, functional family interacted, was both healing and painful. The contrast between their genuine affection and my father's transactional approach to relationships was stark. "You're always welcome here," Darwin, Jennifer's mother, told me, as we helped with dishes after dinner. "Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up for you, who celebrates your joys and supports you through hardships." In December, I received news through a mutual acquaintance that my father's house had indeed been sold, and they were moving to a smaller home in a less prestigious neighborhood. The narrative being spread was that I had caused their financial ruin through my sudden and cruel abandonment. What wasn't mentioned was their history of financial mismanagement, their luxury purchases, or the fact that my father at 58 was perfectly capable of working more than the part-time consulting he'd transitioned to years ago, right around the time my financial support had become substantial. The final confrontation came via phone, 6 months after I'd cut financial ties. My father called from an unknown number, and I answered without recognizing it. Darwin. His voice was both familiar and strange, harder than I remembered. "We need to talk about what you've done to this family." "Hello, Dad," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I've said everything I needed to say. We had to sell the house. Sophia had to get a job instead of focusing on school. Melissa had to go back to full-time work. All because you decided to punish us over nothing. It wasn't nothing to me, Dad, and I didn't force you to live beyond your means for years. So that's it. 25 years, as your father counts for nothing." The question hung in the air, laden with unintended irony. 25 years, as his son had counted for nothing to him, except as a source of income. I think we have very different memories of those 25 years, I finally said. I remember trying desperately to be part of your family and being repeatedly shown that I wasn't. I remember supporting you financially for years while being excluded from family events. I remember being told explicitly that I wasn't really part of the family. People say things they don't mean. No, Dad, that's the one time you were honest with me, and I'm grateful for it because it finally allowed me to see the truth and stop pretending. So, you're just done, cutting off your own father. I'm done being used. I'm done funding a family that doesn't include me. I'm done trying to buy love and belonging. There was a long silence before he spoke again, his voice colder. You'll regret this, Darwin. Someday you'll need family, and we won't be there for you. The statement was so ironic, they had never been there for me even while taking my money, that I actually laughed softly. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up and blocked his number. That evening, I blocked every contact avenue, phone, email, social media, for my father, Melissa, Evan, and even Sophia. It felt like closing a book I'd been trying to keep open for too long. Are you okay? Jennifer asked, finding me staring out at the Seattle skyline from our deck. I think I will be, I answered honestly. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not sending money to people who don't respect me. It feels clarifying. She took my hand, interlacing our fingers. I'm proud of you. Setting boundaries is hard, especially with family. They weren't really my family, I said, the words no longer painful to admit. They were just people I happened to be related to. 6 months after cutting ties with my father, the difference in my life was profound. The weight of perpetual disappointment had lifted, leaving room for genuine growth and connection. Professionally, I continued to thrive. My company recognized my contributions with a promotion to development director, overseeing multiple engineering teams. Without the emotional drain of my toxic family relationship, I found more creativity and focus available for my work. But the real transformation was personal. Jennifer and I got engaged during a weekend trip to the San Juan Islands, pledging to build together what neither of us had fully experienced growing up, a family based on mutual respect, genuine care, and unwavering support. You know what I love most about us, Jennifer said, as we celebrated our engagement with a picnic overlooking the water. We choose each other every day, not out of obligation or guilt or manipulation, but because we genuinely want to be together. My therapy sessions with Dr. Matthews continued helping me process my family history and break the cycles of seeking approval through achievement and financial support. The work wasn't easy. Dismantling decades of conditioning never is, but it was deeply necessary. You're recognizing your inherent worth, she observed during one session. Your value isn't tied to what you can provide financially or how much someone else approves of you. That's significant progress, Darwin. There were still difficult moments. Birthdays and holidays sometimes triggered waves of grief, not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd never actually had. I'd see fathers and sons together in restaurants or parks and feel a pang of something between envy and sadness. It's okay to mourn the relationship you deserved, but didn't get, Jennifer reminded me during these moments. That doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. Our social circle expanded, as I found myself more open to authentic connections. Friends from work, fellow tech enthusiasts, Jennifer's warm extended family. Gradually, we built a community of chosen relationships based on mutual care and genuine interest. My former family made one last attempt at contact through a mutual friend from Portland who reached out saying he had important information from my father. He's really struggling, Darwin, Mark said uncomfortably when we met for coffee. The house they bought after selling the other one is having issues, and they're underwater on the mortgage. He asked me to see if you'd consider helping them out. So there's no actual information, I clarified, just another financial request. Mark had the grace to look embarrassed. He seemed desperate. I didn't realize the full situation between you two. Did he mention excluding me from their family vacation? Or telling me I wasn't really part of the family? Or showing up at my workplace causing a scene? No, Mark admitted. He just said you had a misunderstanding and cut them off without warning. I thanked Mark for his concern, but established a clear boundary. I wasn't interested in messages from my father, especially those disguised as important information, when they were really financial requests. This exchange prompted me to redirect my energy into something more positive. I established a small philanthropic coding program for disadvantaged youth, particularly those from broken homes or foster care backgrounds. The funds I had previously sent to my father now provided computers, software, and mentorship opportunities for kids who had even less family support than I had. Working with these young people, seeing their resilience, their hunger to learn, their appreciation for genuine guidance, healed something in me. I couldn't change my own childhood, but I could help make someone else's better. One afternoon while grabbing coffee near my office, I literally bumped into Sophia. She looked different, more mature, less polished, with a university ID badge clipped to her practical work clothes. "Darwin," she said, clearly startled. I didn't expect to see you." "Sophia, you're in Seattle now." She nodded. "I transferred to UW, got a partial scholarship and work at the library part-time to cover expenses." An awkward silence stretched between us. "I'm sorry," she finally said, eyes downcast. "For everything. For how they treated you. For not standing up for you. For participating in trying to manipulate you afterward." Her apology caught me off guard with its specificity and apparent sincerity. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "I understand why you cut contact. After you left, things got too illuminating. Dad and Melissa couldn't sustain their lifestyle without your money, and it caused a lot of fights. Evan blamed you entirely, but I started seeing the patterns you must have seen for years." I nodded, unsure what to say. "I don't expect you to forgive any of us," she continued. "I just wanted you to know that at least one person in the family recognizes how wrong it all was." "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "I hope you're doing well with your studies." "I am. It's harder without the financial cushion, but healthier, I think. More real." We parted with awkward goodbyes and no promises to stay in touch. Her acknowledgement didn't erase the hurt, but it did provide a small measure of validation I hadn't realized I still needed. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at my home address, handwritten from my father. I recognized his slanting script on the envelope. For a moment I considered opening it, curious if it contained a genuine apology or reflection. Then I noticed the slight bulge of what was clearly a check inside. Nothing had changed. It was still about money, just flowing in the opposite direction now. I returned the envelope, unopened, marked "Return to Sender." It was the last communication attempt I received from him. 3 years have passed since I made the decision to cut financial ties and block contact with my father and his family. In that time, my life has transformed in ways I could barely imagine during those years of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation. My career continued its upward trajectory, and I now serve as a technology director at a company whose values align with my own. The work is challenging and fulfilling, allowing me to mentor younger developers while continuing to grow my own skills. Jennifer and I married in a small ceremony, surrounded by people who genuinely care about us. Her family, our close friends, colleagues, who had become like family. There was an empty space where my biological family might have stood, but it wasn't a void, it was a boundary, a testament to valuing myself enough to require basic respect and genuine care from those in my life. We're expecting our first child next month. A daughter we'll name Elaine after my mother. Preparing for her arrival has brought both joy and reflection. I find myself thinking about what it means to be a parent, to be responsible for a child's sense of worth and belonging. "You're going to be an amazing father," Jennifer tells me often. "You know exactly what not to do." Sometimes I still feel pangs of loss. Not for the relationship I had with my father, but for the one I never got to have. I've accepted that mourning, that absence is part of my journey, and doesn't mean I made the wrong choice. The most unexpected outcome of setting this boundary has been the freedom it created, not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically. No longer trying to earn love through financial support, no longer accepting crumbs of acknowledgement as if they were feasts of affection, I found space to build authentic relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. My philanthropic work with disadvantaged youth has expanded. We now provide coding education and mentorship to dozens of teenagers each year, many from foster care or fragmented family situations. Seeing their growth, not just in technical skills but in confidence and self-worth, has been profoundly healing. Occasionally, I hear indirectly about my father and his family. Evan apparently blames me entirely for their reduced circumstances. My father, now working full-time again, out of necessity, reportedly still speaks of my abandonment without acknowledging his role in our estrangement. Sophia graduated and found work in Seattle, but we maintain a respectful distance. I've learned that forgiveness doesn't necessarily require reconciliation. I've forgiven my father and his family, not for their benefit but for mine. Carrying anger and resentment would only continue to give them power over my emotional well-being. But forgiveness doesn't mean resuming a toxic relationship or subjecting myself to further exploitation. The most valuable lesson I've learned through this journey is that self-respect requires action, not just recognition. It wasn't enough to identify the mistreatment. I had to establish and maintain boundaries to protect myself from further harm. This wasn't selfishness. It was self-preservation. Family, I've come to understand, isn't defined by DNA or legal ties. Family consists of the people who celebrate your successes without jealousy, support you through difficulties without keeping score, and value your presence not for what you can provide, but simply because they love who you are. I've built that kind of family now, through marriage, through friendship, through mentorship, and soon through parenthood. The peace that comes from these authentic connections is something I never experienced in my years of trying to buy a place in my father's family. As I prepare to welcome my daughter, I make this promise. She will never doubt her place in our family. She will never have to earn our love through achievement or financial support. She will know in her bones that she belongs, not because of what she does, but because of who she island. And that perhaps is the ultimate victory over the past, breaking the cycle, creating something new and healthy where something broken once existed. If you're in a situation like mine, giving and giving to people who take and take, remember that you deserve relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who treat you as an ATM rather than a human being worthy of love. Have you ever had to cut off family for your own well-being? Or have you found yourself supporting people who don't value you beyond what you can provide? Share your experiences in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries with family. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you deserve to be valued for who you are, not what you can provide.